Hi, welcome to singularIt training, and welcome to this series of 5 videos specifically dedicated to Vue.js generated by JHipster. JHipster generated for us a Vue.js project, but it also includes TypeScript, connection to Spring Boot endpoints, indirect connection to key-cloak security, but also a lot of library, and even some JavaScript code generated by JHipster. That creates a lot of confusion around Vue.js and how to use it. And now we need to find our way out, and we need to understand how all that works so we can enhance our project and create new feature. That series will be split in 5. It's already in a JHipster Vue.js MongoDB series, but inside that we'll create a group of 5 smaller videos that are dedicated to Vue.js. This first video is about the configuration file that allow us to run Vue.js and compile it. Let's start with the file surrounding our Vue web application. The node folder is installed by the Maven wrapper. It basically installed node locally. We'll look at Maven in the build process in another video. Just consider that this one is it's not part of the Git, okay? And you have the node module here, which also is not part of the Git. And this one, when you do node install, it will install all the required libraries that the Vue app needs. And that includes a lot of libraries. We have all those dependencies that are part of the compilation of our application. Some of them will be included and packed all together. Okay, this is my IntelliJ project. We have tsconfig. Tsconfig is the main file for building TypeScript application. Basically, it tells the compiler to store the application under target classes static app, and it includes which one of the Java source we use. On the side, we have the tsconfig for end-to-end testing, because end-to-end testing also needs some extra JavaScript to support the testing. So in that case, we have more classes. And we also have some extra module like Mocha. The tslint is the file to configure the rules that apply to the format of the file. By using that, we ensure that all the files have common rules when we write them. Tslint is supposed to be deprecated since 2019. At some point, we should eventually switch to islint, but as it's generated for us automatically and pre-configured, I would wait to have the next blueprint for Vue.js to see how it goes. Next, we have the space.gdl, which I created to import my object. Sonar project and POM, it's part of the Maven build, and Sonar project is the configuration to do code quality analysis. We will discuss about Sonar in a different video. We also have the package and package lock. The package include all the dependency that we're using and their version. So in that case, everything that we use is part of there. We have the Maven wrapper. The CMD is for Windows base. The Maven wrapper here for Linux. So it basically download Maven if it's not installed currently and run it. URC is the configuration to generate JHipster project. We have here Prettier. Prettier RC and Prettier in your is the configuration file that allows Prettier to run. And Prettier, what it does is that it applies some formatting to our project. Prettier RC is the configuration, which say that how do you want to configure your code. So basically it reformats your code. It can switch tab to 4 character, which make the diff in Git sometime easier. And we also have the in your file, which means that some files should be inured from the project. We have the post CSS RC, and this one is a special one. It allows to process our CSS file by adding modules. We have husky.rc, which is a hook on Git. And before we can commit to Git, it will run lint stages. And lint stages is the lint stages RC here. Will basically run Prettier on our code before running Git, before doing add. Git ignore is standard Git to list the file that we should not put in the repository. So it includes a lot of files, basically done with JHipster, and some Git attributes, which mean that we have some file format to distinguish between binaries and the text files. The editor config is for our IntelliJ or Eclipse or other IDE to behave in the same manner. So it's about it for the files at the base path. The next file will be under source main web app. And we don't have much of those, so we'll go through them. We have the robot.txt. The robot.txt is used for search engine to avoid them scanning some of our URLs. So even if the search engine goes on and try to access the API account audit, it won't be able to index those values. So they won't appear in the search rules. We have the manifest.web app. The manifest.web app is for progressive application that can be run directly on the desktop without any browser. To have a progressive application, you need more than this file. You need to have a service worker, you need to have HTTPS, so it's a different topic by itself, but at least there's a startup to make it work already done. We have here the index file. The index file is the index.html file that is loaded when you load the application initially. It has a couple of things. Okay, we have a basic style sheet, which is standard basic CSS, and it's only used during the loading. We also have the manifest web app for the progressive web app, the fav icon, a lot of stuff already. But this div has an ID app, and it will eventually be replaced totally. So in this part, we have the small Pac-Man, which says that the application is loading. Currently, the display is none, which means that this section here is not shown. This section will be shown if there's a timeout. If while running, we have a timeout after 4 seconds, if the application is not yet there after 4 seconds, it will show the error page. It will switch the display to block, which will make this error section visible. Now there's no script to run. I'll explain that. We can add this script here for service worker, and we can also add a script here if you want to do some Google Analytics in your app, for production, of course. Now, there's no other script. If we just run this HTML file, it will simply time out after 4 seconds and switch to the error page. What we have to know is that when the application is compiled, it will be deployed under static app. Okay, and the index of HTML here will be slightly modified, and the build script will add this link here to the global bundle of JavaScript, which will load the application. And when this script runs, it will go into the main and it will replace the small Pac-Man with our application. Vue is a single page application. It means that when it's loaded, the JavaScript take out all the content of this HTML file, throw it away, and replace it with the application using dynamically generated content. And it stays on browser this way, and we don't reload the page every time. We just navigate into the application straight on the browser. We just change the content. We remove some part of the DOM model, the document object model. So we remove part component, we add new component, we switch them dynamically. And that's the base of a single page application. Now, our single page application, we have this index, the fav icon. Fav icon is the icon you show on a web page. The for is not generated, it's not merged into the static content, so I don't think it's really used that much. And we have here this web XML, which basically only support MAN contents. We have this Swagger UI. The Swagger UI has an index HTML file by itself. So it's basically considered as a straight resource. It's simply copied out on the content. Because in the application currently what they do is that they have a component and it shows a iframe. It's pretty straightforward. So they put a iframe that linked to Swagger UI and they use the Swagger UI directly without any modification. So that's about it. It's a standard index page for Swagger UI, and it basically includes the Swagger UI bundle and presets. We have this internationalization content. So all the translation are here under IAT10, and they're made in the standard way. There's an extra loader to load the translation, which parse the file a little bit differently. So this file may be a little bit different than what Vue.js would make normally. And basically what it will do is that if you have something that is a text that is called global.menu.home, then the text will be home. If it's global.menu.entities.main, it will be called entities, and so on. All those values are there to replace labels in the application. And we'll see how it's loaded when the application starts. We have some content here. We have the CSS. The CSS, this one is only a standard CSS for the small Pac-Man that show up when we're loading. So nothing special about that one. We have SCSS. SCSS is for syntactically awesome style sheet. It's a special style sheet which allows us to build style sheet on top of others. By building on top of others, it just add the style to the other one and increase the style directly. But it needs to be compiled into a CSS to be used in the browser. So at some point there will be a processor that will transform the SCSS into CSS. For the Pac-Man, a standard CSS was enough. It's only a small Pac-Man, so nothing special. We have a lot of images, and those are family members from JHipster. So basically some SVG and images, the one that you show in that show up in the first page. Then we have our app. Our app is the main TS. We'll discuss the main TS just a little bit after. The only part that is a configuration of our TypeScript is the shim view.ts, and this one allow us to use view file, but still consider them as valid TypeScript and not generate error. Because the view file don't have any source code. It's basically only tags and marker. And without that configuration, they would be flagged as mistakes. Thanks for watching this first video. If you found the information useful, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you.